All right, for those of you who are joining, we'll start at the top of the hour. But if you can, it'd be great if you can put in the chat um, your name and what school you're coming from and what region of the country you're joining us from tonight.
Six, seven, and eight.
All right, welcome everyone. If you're just joining us, if you can go ahead and put in the chat your name, what school you're at, and what region of the country you're joining us from tonight. That'll be a great way for all of us to get to know each other. Well, welcome to our ACOOG NSS webinar tonight on Intro to Prelude to Residency. We'll start off with some intros. If this is your first time joining us tonight, we are your NSS board. So my name is Pooja. I am the current NSS president, and I'm a second year at Touro University, California. I will ask the rest of my board who are here with us tonight to introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Brianna Vance. I am the current vice president of NSS, and I am currently in between almost the third year at OUH-COM in Dublin.
Hi, I'm Rayleigh. I am the social media chair for NSS. A third year, I guess almost fourth year once I take boards from LMU DCOM. But I'm currently in Western Kentucky. Is where I did all of my third year rotations, and where I'll be doing all of my required fourth year ones as well.
All right. I don't think we have anyone else on board here tonight. We will go ahead and move on. So our goals for tonight are to introduce ACOOG's new Prelude to Residency initiative for osteopathic medical students who are interested in OB/GYN. So we will be providing an overview of the goals, structures, and key components of P2R. We want to help students understand how P2R can support early clinical preparation, professional development, and residency readiness, and discuss how osteopathic students can intentionally prepare for a future career in OB/GYN. We're also hoping to create opportunities for students to engage directly with OB/GYN educators and ask questions about the transition into clinical training and residency preparation. So our speaker for tonight is Dr. Joseph Kazmarczyk. Dr. Joseph Kazmarczyk is board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, preventative occupational medicine, and integrative holistic medicine. He earned a BA in biology from Lycombe College, an MS in physiology and biophysics from West Virginia University, a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, PCOM, an MPH in Health Services Administration from the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences, and an executive MBA in healthcare from the Aravind K. Haub School of Business at St. Joseph's University. Dr. Kazmarczyk served as a commissioned officer in the United States Public Health Service for 23 years, retiring at the rank of captain. He then joined PCOM, where he held multiple leadership roles including interim dean and chief academic officer of PCOM, Georgia, during the COVID-19 pandemic. He also served as president of the American College of Osteopathic Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOOG, from 2002 to 2003. Following his retirement in 2022 as vice dean of the osteopathic medicine program at PCOM's Philadelphia campus, Dr. Kazmarchik was honored with 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards, the very first osteopathic physician to receive the Association of Professors of Gynecology and Obstetrics, APGO Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Lycom College Angela R. Kite Outstanding Alumnus Award. In recognition of his distinguished career and contributions to medical education, he was awarded Professor Emeritus at PCOM in May 2024. And we have a fascinating fact about Dr. Kazmarchik. In 1985, he attended his first ACOOG annual meeting as the recipient of the first prize winner, the Resident Research Competition Award. So we're very honored to have Dr. Kazmarchik be our speaker tonight. He was one of the developers of P2R. With that, I will pass it on to Dr. Kazmarchik.
Thank you. Andy, can you pull up my slides? Thank you. Prelude to Residency, or P2R, as Pooja already said, is tonight's focus. Next, please. Here are our learning objectives, which include to ascertain the need for P2R through review of the recent NRMP match data, identify the audiences, understand the unique approach to PTR development and implementation, explore PTR content use and optimal timing, and finally, delineate planned assessments for P2R. Thank you. Next slide. There we go. In March, specifically 25 March 2025, as chair of the ad hoc committee for undergraduate medical education, I submitted to ACOOG leadership a proposal, a novel proposal, which I'm excerpting here. Quote, how can osteopathic applicants become more competitive in an increasingly competitive environment? This rhetorical question can be answered by invoking the cardinal principle of marketing, product differentiation. Let me repeat that for emphasis, product differentiation. In other words, osteopathic applicants need to be differentiated from allopathic applicants in a positive, effective, and compelling way. A novel approach to this differentiation by design is the development and implementation of Prelude to Residency, or P2R. Next, please. Here is a summary of the applicants who are competing for OBGYN resident positions. You can see there are MD, DO, US, international medical graduates, and non-US international medical graduates. And they have it in reverse chronologic order, going from 2026 to 2022. I want to draw your attention to the positions offered. In 2022, there were 1,503 OBGYN residency positions. Likewise, in 2023, there were 1,503, but in 2024, those were increased to 1,539 positions. Then in 2026, it was increased to 1,587. Finally, in 2026, the number of positions available to the 5 different types of applicants was 1,638. And you can look specifically at the 2026 data. For MDs, there were 1,119 applicants for those 1,638 positions, whereas there were only 330 DOs, 51 U.S. international graduates who are largely in the offshore or Caribbean schools, and only 45 international medical graduates from elsewhere in the world. Next slide. If you look specifically at the match rate, you can see, again, it's presented from 2026 to 2022. If you look at the MDs starting in 2022, their match rate was 73.6, 2023 was 73.3, and 2024 was 71.7. In 2025, it was 69.9, and then in 2026, it dipped to 68.3. Let's look at the DO match rate. In 2022, the DO match rate was 16.1. In 2023, it was 16.6. In 2024, it was 18.9. In 2025, it was 19.8. And finally, in 2026, it broke 20%. It was 20.1. Next slide, please. There is a lot of historical content that you need to appreciate to understand those statistics. In 2015, there was the beginning of a transition to a single accreditation system. That 5-year transition to a single accreditation period ended on June 30th, 2020. At the same time, there was not only increased interest in OBGYN, but also increased competition for OBGYN residency positions. Because of COVID, there was a mass migration to virtual interviews to the point that in-person interviews were eliminated and it was all virtual interviews. Likewise, audition rotations disappeared from the horizon. To really put the icing on the cake, there was a new application system for OBGYN residencies called Residency CAS. Next slide, please. I was looking at one of my many, many news feeds every day, and I was astounded to see on MedPage in March of 2026, the headline, DO grads report bias when applying for residencies, survey finds. And I have here on the slide, quote, graduates of osteopathic medical schools continue to experience bias when applying for medical residencies, according to a survey by the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine, otherwise known as ACOOG. And in bold here, there's the direct quote. In a survey of more than 3,700 graduating students, 79.1 experienced reporting some form of bias related to their coming from osteopathic medical schools rather than allopathic schools. This question was, how do students experience bias in the match process? And in the bottom here, if you can see it, it was the ACOM graduating seniors report for 2022 to 2023 academic year. The summary of their findings include examples of bias include unequal access to visiting student rotation programs, biased comments by interviewers, explicit expressions of preference for MDs rather than DOs during the interview process, and DO residency candidates being required to take and pass the USMLE, even though they may have already taken and passed COMLEX, which, of course, as you know, is equivalent to USMLE. Next slide, please. What is P2R? It is defined as the strategic framework created to help osteopathic OBGYN applicants stand out through advanced preparation, professional identity formation, and meaningful engagement with the OBGYN residency expectations. Next slide. The intended audience is actually composed of 3 different segments. The first, of course, is the osteopathic OBGYN residency applicants seeking to be more competitive. The second is the mentors and the advisors guiding students through the OBGYN match. The third is residency program directors seeking ready to thrive osteopathic OBGYN PGY1s. Next slide, please. Why? What is the rationale? Osteopathic applicants, as you've already seen, need to be more competitive in this increasingly competitive environment by differentiating themselves from from allopathic applicants in a positive, effective, and compelling story. Let me repeat that. By differentiating themselves from an I did it again. Differentiating themselves from an allopathic applicant in a positive, effective, and compelling way. Next slide, please. Optimal timing is key. This may not seem intuitively obvious, so let me drill down a bit and make it clearer. The timing, in my view, in that of the committee, is to initiate the P2R after passing boards during OM3. And I know there's a whole different variety of timing and requirements. Some people have to do it because of the COM before they start rotations. Some people have to do it at the end of M2. So it's all over the map. That's why it's important to focus on P2R after passing boards. And it should be completed before residency CAS opens up to applicants in June. So what does that mean? That means essentially the entire 3rd year is available for completion of P2R. Next slide, please. And I know there are a number of OMS1s and OMS2s on the call. So specifically for you, what does P2R represent for you? It is informational only, in as much as it is an adjunct to facilitate exploring your interest in and consideration of OBGYN as a future specialty. But it also allows you to appreciate the highly nuanced OBGYN residency application process, residency CAS. And for decades, I have been saying to medical students, I'm preachy, pedantic, and unapologetic about it. So in that vein, let me say P2R should not interfere with foundational learning and prep for COMLEX Level 1. Although it is now pass-fail, it's more important than ever to pass it on the first attempt. And finally, there's an opportunity for OMS1 and OMS2s to participate in P2R assessment at your COM, and you'll see that in a future slide. I think it's around slide 26. Next slide, please. When the P2R is completed, the person completing it will earn a certificate of completion. This certificate can be uploaded to residency CAS. It can be mentioned in personal statements, and it can also be mentioned during the course of a video residency interview. And here's an example of the certificate. Next slide, please. This work is the product of the Ad Hoc Committee for Undergraduate Medical Education, including Tom Anderson, past president, former residency director, David Bowes, another past president and former residency director, Carrie Champagne, rather, who is really amazing. She, as part of her job description, guides students in applying to residencies, in specifically OBGYN residencies, since she is a DO, OBGYN. And one of our superstars was Madison Morgan, our medical student representative. And the other superstar was Audrey Hobeck, our residency representative. And I have to give a special recognition to Madison and Audrey because they were very valuable contributors to the process. I was the chair. Katie Monzo, like Carrie, is an DO OBGYN whose job includes advising students who are seeking OBGYN residencies. Jim Perez is another past president, former residency director, and Diana is a current OBGYN program director. Next slide, please. We took a very unique approach. That approach was, I think, facilitated by the composition of this committee, and kudos to ACOOG leadership for putting this committee together. It certainly reflects great forethought and great understanding of what was needed from this committee. Early on in my career in medical education, I learned the importance of a level playing field. When you have students, residents, and faculty together, you must eliminate the hierarchy gradient. How do you do that? I found the most expedient way was to go to a first name basis, no titles. So that's what we did. Everything was done on a first name basis. And I was strongly influenced by Stephen Covey. When I was coming up and approaching my presidency of ACOOG, ACOOG sent me to a week-long Stephen Covey course that was based on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I have to say that really was profound. It helped me as president of ACOG and has helped me every day since. One of the concepts taken from that was Covey's admonition to begin with the end in mind. Why was that important? It was important to have a shared common vision. We all, that is to say, every member of the committee needed to see the same vision, the same end product. And to really make it operational, we had an agenda available in advance of the committee meeting so that everybody knew what was going to happen, who had what responsibility assigned to him or her. Then, at the conclusion of a meeting, I presented the focus for the next meeting so we knew what we were doing and what we would do next. The sequence was intentional. We focused on the hardest module of the 3 first in order to maintain momentum and prevent the onset of insidious inertia, which is the enemy of productivity of any committee. Our content was achieved by consensus. We had to have a majority in order to put anything together and send it forward to ACOOG leadership. The timeline was a proposal submitted March 25th, 25, and launched April 11th, 2026 at the general membership meeting of the 93rd annual meeting of ACOOG. Next slide, please. So thanks to Andy, here's a brief tour of P2R, and I think this is what was presented at the annual meeting, and I have to apologize, I wasn't there. Next slide. This is the landing page. As you know, with a website, the first place you land is the landing page. And you can see that it defines a prelude to residency, and it delineates modules 1, 2, and 3. Next slide, please. And this, of course, defines what it is. It identifies ACOOG, and it says Prelude to Residency, P2R, is a structured evidence-based program created exclusively for osteopathic OBGYN applicants. It gives you the knowledge, tools, and preparation that the match process expects, but that no one explicitly teaches. That is a very comprehensive and profound description. And I like how the bottom line says it's free, it's self-paced, and built for you. Next slide, please. And you already know the 3 segments of the audience: the OBGYN applicants, the mentors and advisors, and the residency program directors. And here are the 3 modules to emphasize what they are. So as we go through the rest of the presentation, you have a much, much clearer idea of the content. Module 1, oh, hold on. Module 1 contains the resources and tools for OBGYN residency applicants. Module 2 is the pre-work from CREOG RRR curriculum. Now, you're thinking, more alphabet soup. My diet is already full of alphabet soup. So let me streamline and simplify your diet. CREOG, if you don't already know, stands for Council on Residency Education in Obstetrics and Gynecology. And the RRR is the right resident, right time. Module 3 is one that was suggested by Dr. Teresa Hupka, who is a member of ACOOG, a former president, and the immediate past AOA president. When she was traveling the country, she was able to see many, many comms, visit with students, and one of the takeaways for her was seeing the asymmetry and the inequity of preparation for virtual interviews between MD schools and DOs, and even amongst comms. So when I was presenting all of this in theory to her as we were developing it, she said, I think there needs to be a module for prep for the virtual interviews. So she is the source of the idea of this module 3, prep for virtual interviews. Next slide, please. So you can see here that module 1, as you already know, resources and tools for OBGYN residency applicants. And it says you will learn, and what's delineated here is basically learning objectives without calling them learning objectives. But the bottom line is learning to understand this new, highly nuanced residency application process. Next slide, please. Module 2 is the pre-work from the CREOG RRR curriculum. And here's an example of including the concept of 1, a flipped classroom, and 2, spaced retrieval or spaced repetition. So if you go through all of this, it becomes clear that the intent of this CREOG and RRR curriculum is to have the incoming PGY1 learn what they are presenting here, but more than that, internalize it so it can be operationalized and used from the beginning of the residency as a PGY1, and then built every day to expand it and internalize it more and more completely. Next slide, please. And here's the prep in Module 3 for virtual interviews as recommended by Dr. Teresa Hupke. And you'll see here the first learning objective is one of the most commonly asked questions in an interview, and it's the question that gives applicants the most trouble. Tell me about yourself. But what's interesting here is what we have put together is a response that is the way a program director actually wants to hear the answer to this question. Then you can see 25 most common OBGYN residency interview questions with sample answers. I mean, that is incredibly valuable. One of the things that happens during the course of an interview is usually the penultimate question. Do you have any questions for us? The applicants usually stumble, fumble, and look like a deer in the headlights. They don't know how to answer that question. And by not asking an appropriate question, the applicant does significant self-sabotage. So it's important to be able to articulate questions for the interviewee or the team interviewing the applicant. So finally, you can see there are technical aspects included in this module about your camera, lighting, background, appearance, makeup, and in making you look on camera your very best. Next slide, please. And Andy will be the first one to tell you, because he put it together, that there are 22 videos, 16 PDFs, 7 articles, FAQs, and discussion boards. And Andy, during the Q&A, I think would be valuable if you could tell the story about how things are going to look different because of migration from one platform to another. And the committee provides the content, but the platform puts it into a website. And that platform is different. Therefore, the appearance of the website will be different as well. Next slide, please. And Andy will emphasize that it's a menu-driven format, with each section building off the previous and each module filling specific needs. And you can see that one of the favorite amongst the committees, especially the resident and the medical student, was this one video on the left, The Art of Falling Forward. Next slide, please. There will be discussion fora. I think that's the proper term. And we will have FAQs. And I've already talked to the committee about each committee member providing 1 to 2 FAQs by going through the website and just identifying things that need clarification. The FAQs are going to be incredibly powerful and valuable in that they will be where something new can be identified, something that needs clarification can be identified. But here is also an opportunity for the National Student Society to participate. I think after going through all of this, the NSS members can and should send by email questions. Those questions will be reviewed by the committee, and if they are generalizable, they will be included and they will be answered by the committee and included in this FAQ section. I think this is going to be one of the best ways of keeping it fresh, keeping it relevant, and keeping it current. Next slide, please. The committee already knows that we have talked about planned assessment. The key metric here is match performance of the DO applicants. And it may take more than 1 year. It may take 2 or 3 before we see an inflection point and increased performance of the DO applicants. So don't expect it to happen overnight because it's highly unlikely to occur with that kind of rapidity or alacrity. What the committee really is interested in is user experience surveys. And some of the early projects will be coming up with user experience surveys specifically for the 3 different target audiences: the applicants, the mentors and advisors, and the program directors. Each has a different perspective, therefore each requires a different survey. Finally, when we get some data, the results will be disseminated in presentations and publications. The user experience surveys represent another opportunity for NSS members to participate. At your COM, you could participate in any or all 3 of these user experience surveys. And you could present the results, for example, as a poster. It might be easiest, and the low-lying fruit might be the applicant user experience, and that could very readily translate into a poster. Next slide, please. As I said, if you want to suggest any questions for the FAQ, please put that in an email and send it to me here in my personal email address. Next slide, please, Andy. It's time for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kazmarczyk. That was a really great overview of P2R. I'm sure the students have tons of questions, so feel free to come off mute and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat. And we have Dr. Kazmarczyk and Andy who can answer those questions for you. Okay, so we have a question from Lauren. Is it too late to participate if we are applying in the 2026-27 cycle?
That means
So
you're a
they're
4th
applying
year,
this year.
you're a
They'll be
4th
applying
year,
this year.
and residency CAS is going to open up in June of 2026. The short answer is no. The short answer includes a narrow window. And I think that I would actually approach the 3 modules in reverse order. I would start off with the module 3, knowing what to ask, how to answer, how to prepare, how to do everything to get ready for the virtual interview. Then I would move on, time permitting, to module 2. But you can still do it and still take full advantage of it because you already know most of what's contained in module 1. But if there's time, I still would look at module 1 to see if there's anything that you may have overlooked. But I would do it in reverse order. It's counterintuitive, but it will work.
All right, we have a question from Tara. How long would the P2R modules take to complete?
That's a good question. We don't know yet. We will probably include that in the survey of the user experience because it's going to be a range. There'll be a min and there'll be a max. So I know how long it took me. I know how long it took Madison and how long it took Audrey, but we all had a different time. So I cannot give you a precise answer at this time. That's where the survey data will answer that specifically and precisely.
Right, we have a comment from Noor. Thank you so much for this massive undertaking. What a great way to support us students. I would like to know if it is possible to begin this program as an incoming OMS 3. If so, how do we enroll?
Andy, I turn that over to you. You know
I
the
will. I will jump in there. We're putting the spinning rims on the car right now, so we're trying to make it look nice, function in both desktop and mobile scenarios as we want it to function. And then there are some deciding on the structure of things. We were set back slightly by the implementation of a new data system that ACOOG just implemented about a week and a half ago. Most of that is back on track, and we should be able to refocus our efforts and have this ready for sign up. I'm thinking in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Everything should be fine. So the goal would be to get it out sooner than that, but I don't want to promise something I can't. I'm not confident I can deliver on. So it's going to be available actually on ACOOG's homepage right now. You can go there, and it's one of the first blocks right under the header on the front webpage. We feel so passionate about this product, so it's it's coming. It's almost there, and stay tuned.
Andy, how different will the website appear from the illustrative or sample slides that I presented?
It's going to be very similar to what they saw on the slide you just showed. The main difference is how you access it. If you access it on a desktop, you're going to see something very similar to what Dr. Kazmarchik showed. If you see something on a mobile device, the menu system is going to be it'll be the same content, but just progressing through it's going to be a little bit differently. Not that big of a deal. We're working with partners right now to try to get this on a dedicated mobile platform. But they own the platform, so we're just trying to work through all those details. Again, don't want to promise something we can't deliver on.
I suspect that is due to the technical differences in the aspect ratios.
It is. It is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a question from Sarika. Since apps have moved to Residency Cast, it is difficult to find program-specific statistics on Residency Explorer. Do you have any advice to find target programs for DOs?
Look in module 1 because there are a number of resources. I would say there's probably about a handful that address that question.
All right, so we have a question from Kendall. Just lost it. Okay, will we be able to earn certificates for the 26-27 cycle?
If you complete everything, I would anticipate Yes. And may I add, that was a very animated and robust discussion in the committee because some members said, well, you only need to complete module 2. And most of the members said all 3, all or none.
You have to be a student member of ACOOG to use P2R, or is this open to anyone?
Andy, I defer to you on that one.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We had a discussion about this as well. This is open to anyone. We feel so strongly about it, and we wanted to make this open to anyone. It requires an account on ACOOG system to be able to go in and access it. But there's no charge for it. It is absolutely free, and there is no requirement that you be an ACOOG member to use it. Although we certainly would love for everyone to be an ACOOG member, even during it and after residency. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I just dropped the link into the chat if you want to copy that and save it to your favorites. You can visit that. We'll send out notices when it's available as soon as we fully launch it.
Hi, my name is Inar Hani. I'm an almost 2 at University of Incarnate Word School of Medicine. Thank you so much for hosting this. I just wanted to ask, thinking just from like an organization standpoint, I assume there just will be like Instagram like posts and pamphlets, etc., that we can then kind of give out to like school per our school, just because I want to make sure I can make sure that our third years are aware about this.
There will be. You may not be aware right now, ACOOG has engaged a company to do its branding. So you've probably seen a big shift in its online presence as well. And part of that is going to be PTR when this gets launched. So there will be downloadable flyers that you're able to take and share. There are things available at conferences you can pick up and take back and share, and a big social media and email presence.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
So I know you mentioned P2R is also for mentors, advisors, and residency programs. I'm curious to know how you're engaging with them as well. Like, are you talking to different schools about this? How are you getting the word out about P2R so that as students, when we apply and show our certificate, there is that recognition on their end of all that's been accomplished with this program?
Dr. Michael Jurea has already reached out to the president and CEO of AACOM, Dr. Robert Kane, initiated some discussions, and I think that's going to be the way to go forward. And one of the members of the committee in particular, Dr. Carrie Champagne, is a member of the ACOM committee that represents all of the student advisors. So the mechanism certainly will involve ACOM. The question is how, when, and where, but it will be done. It's on the horizon. I mean, the big hurdle was getting P2R launched. The implementation will be, I think, considerably easier than the development. But what you asked about is certainly one of the plans for implementation. There have, well, there are more questions. There has to be.
Can ask another question. So for students who are still early in their exploration of OB/GYN and maybe not fully committed yet to the specialty, how would you suggest that they approach P2R?
I think they should begin by using P2R to establish an understanding of this highly nuanced new OBGYN residency application system through residency CAS, concentrating on module 1 and maximize it to their strategic advantage. You need to understand this highly nuanced system because it's different from anything else. And in my view, my opinion only, it's not very intuitive.
Hello, thank you so much for this overview of the program. As we are like waiting for the official launch that we can have the access for the like the website and things like that, are there things that you recommend we do now to kind of help us prepare for when we are able to participate in the program?
The easiest answer is you can start participating now by emailing me questions that can be included in an FAQ because your question is not yours alone. I would expect it to be representative of other students, and I think you would really contribute to launching P2R by contributing to the FAQs. And I think that is going to be probably one of the most dynamic aspects of P2R.
Dr. Kazmarczyk, I just dropped your email address into the chat so people can send those.
Well, I put it on the slide, but the slide wasn't there long enough, other than perhaps to have a minimum of subliminal perception. But thanks, Andy. More questions?
We've got one more question in the chat. Will there be a tactical component that offers students exposure to the surgery side of OB/GYN to aid with auditions/residency?
There is some element of that already in module 3. I would look at the 25 most commonly asked interview questions. And I would drill down in module 3 because there's a whole lot there. And in some of the example questions, there are case presentations and asking the applicant, here's the patient, here's the history, here's the presentation. What are you going to do next, doctor? And some of those are surgical, many are obstetrical. But get into module 3, explore it, and you will find something there.
All right, we're coming up to the top of the hour, so we have time for maybe one or two more questions if anyone wants to either come off mute and ask or put it in the chat. And also Dr. Kazmarczyk or Andy, if there's anything else you want to add about P2R, you can definitely do so now before we wrap up.
I would say as you're going through it on the learning management system, if there's something that some sort of navigation or some process on that from a technical standpoint that doesn't make sense to you, please reach out to me or to someone at ACOOG. So we can look at it and fix it. We want this. This is going to be an ever evolving thing, and this is the first iteration. We want it to be as smooth and as easy to go through as it can possibly be. And what that means for us may mean something different for you. So we want to make sure it works the best way it can. So please let us know that and give us the feedback.
Andy, thank you. I think the technical term for what you're describing is called evergreen. Is that not correct?
Indeed, it is.
I see President Papp on. Maybe we should let her have the last word.
Before that, there is one more question that came in the chat.
Okay.
Where can we submit the certificate once completed? Can it be added to residency CAS applications?
The technical question involving residency CAS should be submitted to me in an FAQ environment, because organizationally, we will have to reach out to residency CAS to find out technically what are the steps involved in submitting it, uploading it, and getting it integrated as part of your application. But you can mention it in the virtual interview, and it should be part of your personal statement, because all you have to do is a simple declarative statement. It doesn't necessarily need to be uploaded. The only place where it really needs to be uploaded is the residency CAS application.
Well, I want to thank everyone for their participation, but most importantly, I want to thank Dr. Kazmarczyk as well as Andy and the work group. I had the opportunity as president-elect to sit in on some of the committee meetings, and everyone was very thoughtful and equally engaged. And as I had the opportunity as president-elect to approach some of the medical students at the fall conference, I want you to know that here and moving forward, ACOOG is your home. And I think this is a testament of the investment that we are making, because we understand the importance of preparing you in a way that you will thrive during residency and beyond. And going through these modules as an attending that's been in practice for the past 20 years, there were things that I learned from these modules. And so I just applaud the thoughtful approach that this committee has taken. But I think also to the point that we know that this is just the beginning. And I think your input is what is going to allow us to make this stronger. So feedback is critical. And I want to thank you so much for your participation tonight and moving forward, and commend the NSS leadership for all that they are doing. So thank you so much, Pooja, for this program.
Thank you, Dr. Papp, and thank you, Dr. Kazmarczyk, for the wonderful presentation tonight. And thank you, Andy, for hosting as well as answering questions, both live as well as in the chat. Personally, I'm really excited about P2R. As an incoming third year, I will definitely be signing up for it once I finish my board exam. And I'm sure everyone on this call is excited as well. So yes, thank you. And in these last couple of minutes, just want to kind of share a plug for NSS. I put our information in the chat there, how to reach out to us via email, Instagram, and Linktree. If this is your first time at one of our webinars, welcome. We are doing another webinar in June, all about advocacy, and we will be hearing from Dr. Jody Bennett. So please look out for the emails on that. And we are doing another roundtable in July, at the end of July. So when that date is announced, emails will go out about that as well. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us tonight.
I wanted to
Rayleigh?
plug one thing. Sorry. I have scheduled a date to record not one, but two podcasts with Dr. Patel, who is in charge of the Women's Health Minutes ACOOG podcast, with a guest speaker who's a resident. And we're going to be discussing how the match works as one podcast topic for an OBGYN applicant right now as a DO. And also struggling to decide wanting to take USMLE and COMLEX and how that decision should be made from the point of view of a resident, and all of that. So if you have any hard pressing questions that you want addressed, DM our Instagram and I will put that in the podcast, and just be on the lookout for when that comes out. We'll be promoting it on the Instagram again, and it'll be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
All right, thank you for that plug, Rayleigh. And with that, we can wrap things up. Thank you once again for coming out tonight, and thank you to our wonderful speakers. I hope to see you at a future NSS event. Have a good evening, everyone.